Welcome everyone to Daniel Krug and Associates Halftime Report. Today's date is July 24th, 2020. The title of our presentation today is An Unforgettable Year, and it's not over yet. My name is Rocky Istvan. I'm the Chief Compliance Officer and Associate Wealth Manager at Daniel Krug and Associates. Daniel Krug, CEO and Senior Wealth Manager, will be joining me in today's presentation. This presentation is for informational and illustrative purposes only. If you have any questions or need specific advice, please call the office and we will help you out with that. We're looking at about an hour presentation. We've got a lot of material to get through today. We will try to leave time at the end for Q&A. So if you have some questions, you can type those in at the right side of your screen, again, using the chat box. So today we're going to be covering where we've been, where we are now in the middle of the year, and where we may be going. And to kick things off, I'm going to bring Dan on. So Dan, if you want to join us here, we can, there you are.
Well, good morning.
We will turn it over to you, Dan, to get us going on where we've been, and I will sign off and be back in a little while.
All right, very good. Where we've been. This is going to be an interesting one. We've got a lot of data here for everybody. We're going to really give you some insight on what has been going on, what we're seeing today, and where we believe we're going relative to the economy and really financials. So where have we been? Every year when we do the halftime report, or if we do the end of year reports, there's some forecasting that we look at from all the different financial firms out there, and they all pick out a target that they think that the S&P is going to hit by the end of the year. As you look at this, it seemed that it was going to be a pretty good year. We're only halfway through, so we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. But I would say it would be anybody's guess right now as to which one of these institutional money managers are actually going to be right. But we'll get into some details here to give you a better understanding of where we think we're going here, and some of the bumps along the road that we could be hitting that could either put us way off track or allow us to kind of cruise through the rest of the year. So if you ever been to any of our workshops when it comes to the markets, you are familiar with these economic and financial indicators that we present for our clients. City National Rockdale, which does a great job of research on the economy and on the financials, are the ones that present this, bring it to us every month, so we can have a better understanding of what's going on with the markets. And that allows us to make better decisions from a planning standpoint for our clients. So when you're looking at these dials, this is January, the beginning of this year, and it was looking pretty good. Green is a positive, yellow is neutral, and red, kind of like a stop sign, is kind of on the negative side. When you're looking at each one of the dials, you've got hands on them. If you see the black hand is where we are today, based on CNR putting this speed dials out for us. And the gray is actually where we were the prior month. So I'm looking at this in January, most people are, and saying, well, things are looking pretty good. So we move forward another month, and guess what? It still looks good, even with the overshadowing of the COVID coming out of China at that time. It still looked pretty good. Now, we advance one more month. Well, things went red in a hurry. And most of the money managers and economists were caught really off guard here as to the measures that were going to be taken to try to protect people in the different countries, and especially here in the US. So What happened through the first 181 days of 2020? Well, there was a lot going on at this point. U.S. trade with China had a bit of a tension going on there. Matter of fact, it is actually expanded. It's not just the U.S. that's having problems with China right now, but the European Union's coming out with their grievances. So is Britain. So is Australia. Australia, speaking of them, they had the major bushfires. That was a big toll. U.S.-Iran conflict. Every once in a while, Iran just starts rattling their sabers and usually does it with each one of the different presidents to see what they can get away with. But we also had the coronavirus coming out of China. That was the major story. Royal retirement for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. So they kind of stepped down as being princes and princesses. The impeachment trial, well, kind of didn't go anywhere, but, that was in the news a lot. We had the death of Kobe Bryant. That hit the sports world really, really hard. So that was a very, very unfortunate event. Britain exited from the European Union, finally. So it did happen. And then you had civil unrest in Hong Kong. Just an anecdotal thing here. The Navy released videos on UFOs. So the UFO conspiracists are really kind of jumping all over that right now. COVID-19 was declared a pandemic. So that was a big one. We're still living through it right now. There was the end of sports, concerts, shows, at least for now, where these big get-togethers are no longer happening. You had the major U.S. recession hit, and then there was U.S. civil protests going on, and some of them got kind of ugly. So these are really the headlines, an awful lot going on in the first 6 months of this year. So when you think about it from a COVID standpoint, it caught the world unprepared. If you look back at the last 7 outbreaks we've had, viral outbreaks, every one of those were contained for the most part. And I think it really put the world in a false sense of security. Because of that, the world just wasn't ready for what happened. But the world did ramp up rather quickly and realistically led by the U.S. in that effort. When you think about the fear and uncertainty that came about relative to COVID and the spread beyond China, this chart here really shows the S&P 500 in blue, and then the volatility index, or what we call the VIX, in red. And it was running pretty smooth right through from 2013 to the end of 2019. And then you see this big spike at the end. And then obviously the recession, there was a lot of fear. It's kind of tapered off a bit right now. Quite frankly, that's a little bit concerning given what's going on out there. But there you have it. This statement from Denise Chisholm from Fidelity is really, I think, spot on. In less than 30 days, the market priced in a level of fear that was usually taken a year to reach, even during severe recessions. And this kind of highlights what I was talking about in the beginning when it came to how fast this came on. You look at the speed dials, the first 2 months looked great. The third month looked pretty negative. And it did catch everybody by surprise as to how fast it occurred. So what happened? Well, we had the end of the longest bull market in history. So that came to a screeching halt in March. Now, what was taking place at that time and still going on today? Well, the focus was flattening the curve when it came to the daily confirmed COVID-19 deaths. And this chart really gives you a broad feel, kind of a 30,000-foot view of the world and the policy responses for the different areas of the world. And there were school closures, workplace closures, cancellation of public events, restricted public gatherings. stay-at-home orders where people were kind of shut in. Public transportation just about went to a grinding halt. And certainly there were travel restrictions, and they're still out there today. So here's the good news. The good news is it all worked. We are flattened the curve tremendously. If you remember what the primary goal was, the primary goal was to not overwhelm our medical system. And we are at a point where that is not happening. In other words, we've gotten to a state